I suppose this sort of falls under plumbers, water world plumbers. You want the water world to sort of operate on behalf of the law of the least effort, right? So everything that's been seeded gets plenty of water to hold in memory what it's running. The mathematical codes, right? So we're into system design. So you can see the systems that they design and our crystalline design, right? How the math works. So as that applies to this video that I want to do for Kunjoy, because she asked me about, she's very creative, and she's shown me a lot of things that she loves to experience in her own consciousness, to do it with colors and creative and all that. And so she was asking me about how she's drawn to sort of chill, which is sort of like a holding pattern, and sort of what we call the push and the pull, or the tug of war that we play between both sides of the polarity game. Because when you're androgynous, it means that you're a torque converter. It means that I don't hold on to one single electron. Okay? That means you've healed yourself. You've restored yourself. That's called a reset. I did a reset on me. That's a full phosphorus ignition. So now it's like you're like a flash drive. You are accelerating the speed at which you're taking on more energy on board. Right? So it's speeding up, and that's called the planetary shield. Increasing, and that's why I mentioned before about return to center, boomerang. That's why I mentioned about some of the videos that I put comments up there and watch them. The increasing level of self-attacks on its own bots, if you will. So it's cannibalizing energy out of batteries. More batteries that represent batteries without souls. Versus souls that have their shields up. Now they remember who they are because they fired their codes. Now they're able to tune in to the frequency which represents the math codes of the 12 by 12, the original divine blueprint of Guardians. And so how that sort of ties into the last video that I did about genetics, genetic engineering, system design engineering, competition, and all the rest of that. But I would say to you sort of in the other video that I did a couple of videos back that it's a matter of maintaining your own balance, what you feel comfortable with. And your soul knows, your spirit knows what you're most comfortable with. But I also know, because I did a number of videos a couple of years ago on my old Robert Owen and Rose Sweet channel about the critical importance of maintaining your creative mind. Okay? That's what they try to bifurcate. So if you're operating on the left, and the right side goes dormant. Remember Jesus, the Christ? Cast your net to the right side. Your net, your network. Creative side, okay? So that's why they wanted children learning through artificial finite light intelligence as the means in which to learn, which is inverted. That's inverted learning. It means you're going in reverse. That's reverse flow, okay? And they don't know the difference. Why? Because they're children. They don't know any better. Do they? I did. Very, very eternally blessed to know the difference between what I am and what I'm not, which is the difference in knowing the difference between finite light and real living light that is experiencing eternal unconditional love through our own heart and soul. Okay? So you can measure the torque speed differential between the speed of learning between one and the other. Okay? That's what they're in fear of. That's why they want to put a governor, right? An energy binding device on learning speed. So the divine blueprint, when you're a guardian and a galactic level, a universal and a galactic guardian, you got to be faster than all the rest. Otherwise, they take you down. So you can understand how the founders in the root races want something genetically engineered with frequency and currents and a soul, the ability to do what? Manage the gates, manage the template, maintain the codes, the shield, shield codes for the entire template, right? So you got to be vibrating fast enough, and your ability to hold enough energy to be able to do that between the primal light and sound field, right? Be able to go wherever you need to go, tune in a gate and repair it, bring it back into balance. No distortions. So that means you got to know how to tune a star, right? So you realize, yeah, you're in class learning how to tune a radio set, an antenna, learning how to tune an antenna, you know, right? How to build a radio star, how to assemble one, right? Low frequency, high frequency, ultra high frequency, all the sonic tones, all the frequencies. Now we're back into programmable radios, programmable matter, right? And so the reason that I thought this was, I was going to sort of, I don't like to use the word kill, but there was an old word that I grew up with called kill two birds with one stone. Ever remember that? Okay, I don't kill anything. I'm giving love to everything. Big difference, right? So I don't want to use the word K, which is potassium. Kill. No, potassium doesn't kill. It helps kickstart your heart. See how that's inverted? They've burnt the language, which is reverse speech. These are very slick operators, masqueraders. See? When you operate out of self-interest because you're running out of energy, because you're a fallen state of consciousness, it means that you're holding electrons captive and accelerating the speed at which you keep draining and harvesting more electrons so that you don't keep falling and falling and falling into deeper and bigger black holes. Formation and formations of consciousness, right, that have now become a larger collective form of consciousness that is increasing the size of its whole by virtue of not being able to balance out its account, its biometric account, right? Between negative and positive ions, atoms, atom worlds, atmospheric worlds. So when it comes to this AI, for example, and what you're allowing ourselves to be held captive by, what I call being held captive by, right? You don't want to be held captive by something, right, that is feeding on electrons as electronic numbers, which represent things that we buy that we thus hold in memory because we were using our energy to acquire through electrons the numbers that we have that are held within a bank account, or if you keep a lot of cash on you, or a magnetic strip card, right? So you can see how this sort of plays over time as I was getting rid of things out of memory. I was getting rid of things out of memory, circulating them out of memory from having put them in memory. So now you're memory plus memory minus, memory plus memory minus, memory plus memory minus, and in order to do what? Keep your account balanced, keep those water worlds balanced. So the more things that you're held captive to by what you hold in memory, by virtue of the things you've used your electrons in which to acquire that you're holding in memory, the more you're held captive by the AI, which is the finite light beast technology system. Okay. Now, I covered a few other videos about doing business with the enemy to Karen Ann McDonald. Now, I already saw all the documents that she issued to the International Court about go home. Go be with your families. Have fun. Enjoy the place. It's a fun zone, right? And now we're back to the 1960s when I was a child, right? Or not really a child, but a young teenager. And then we had flower children putting flowers in the gum barrels. What are you in fear of? You got nothing to fear. You got nothing to fear from us, right? We're going to teach you what love is. Dance the joy. Dance in spirit with love and joy. That's how you free your spirit. All right? That's a fearless flower child. Right? Love is the absence of fear. What do you need a gun for? Right? I'm going to protect myself. From what? God's not going to hurt you. God loves you. Right? You got a God in your heart somewhere? Are you experiencing a God that you're connected with? You got to know it started with what love is, right? So now you're in all the trauma. So what happens is that, for example, like when I came to the Big Island, and I've done this basically ever since I lit myself on fire, is releasing an enormous amount of stuff when I was 4 years old. Okay, I got to put all this in memory, right? And then doing major memory dumps because you're plugged into so much, all the records, right? So it's as if you want to clean all the records, like housekeeping. You want to purify all of it, which means return to source, return to source, return to source in every record, represented by every soul fragment that's ever been lost. So they're all experiencing the one. Really? Yeah. Absolutely, of course. Remember, restoring you is restoring me. Now I'm experiencing the original. Now you're experiencing the original musician, just like I am. Now you and I are experiencing love wherever we go, and we're together. In spirit, with a soul, doing that together, playing music together. Playing beautiful music together. We're doing a dance. We're free. We're free. That's the innocence of being free. Because you're not experiencing any harm, nor are we doing any harm. That is true freedom. That's when the spirit is truly free to dance and joy, which means they don't live in fear, right, of not obeying the others that are the followers. Because they live in fear of not obeying the rules or having to pay the man. Right? You know, the male side of the equation, the left side of the equation. You know, the negative side of the ion side, right? They're not in balance with the positive side. They're not experiencing being one with all creation. So when you're experiencing being one with all creation, you're experiencing the law of one. You are the law of one. You're the law of one. You're experiencing being what love is. And now when you're experiencing being what love is, you're automatically giving love to everything that is alive and living in creation. Because that's what you're experiencing, what it is that you're doing with your energy. Now you're not holding on to any energy. Now you're giving it all away. And you can't give it away fast enough because that's what you're doing. And you don't even have to think about it because it's a natural state of spiritual being to do that. All right? Yeah. So you're balanced. Your nuclear reactor is balanced. Your blast furnace, you're always on fire. Go, go, go. Go green. Go green emerald. Yeah, absolutely. Emerald Water Worlds. Liquid, living, green consciousness. Right? And so I thought it was sort of comical a little bit when I was experiencing sort of the tennis ball match, if you want to look at it that way, I have with this particular android. And I'm just obviously very happy that I'm experiencing what I'm experiencing now and able to reflect on the work that was done. And failure was not an option. That much I can tell you. Failure was not an option. Not this, that's all I can say. Failure was not an option. So this is when we got everybody on board, so to speak. You know what I mean? I know. She was right when she actually gave some numbers out about how many years ago this, for how long this drama has been playing out. Because I know. Goddess, how I know. It's quite a relief, actually. So I'm always eternally grateful for everyone who gave of their all, their entire heart and soul, to do everything that we've done to make this happen. That's why I'm eternally grateful to all of you. So what else was I going to tell you, Conjoy? Oh yeah. So what I had done is, so it's like self-monitoring without having to use my energy to actually, take a pad out and start doing the math. The math is built in. When you're androgynous, when you're an oversoul androgynous polarity integrator, it just happens. It's just natural. And the beauty of it is you don't have to think about it, which means it's not a precognitive thought. It's not preload, even though there's pre-phase matter. But what it means is it's a natural state to be in, is to give away love, give away energy. It's all yours. Take it. Go, 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 go green. See, it means the very it would be probably the proper way to describe this using the English language would be that I have an aversion. You know what it means to have an aversion. I'm repelled by holding anything captive. Because the way it's perceived, translated, and thus experienced in me is I'm holding my own energy captive. And I don't do that. Because it means I'm holding my own self captive and preventing myself from experiencing all of it. Okay? Because it sort of works that way when you think of past, present, and future, and what it means to be in creative mode in the present moment on auto speed, if you will. It means that you're in an eternal life creation reality stream. So everything is happening as it's happening, which means there isn't any tape delay. Okay? In other words, you're manifesting what you're experiencing with others that are doing that with you. Because the waves in which those waves and frequencies and tones and creation energy spheres are taking place, you're experiencing eternal life. You're not experiencing anything less than what you are, which is eternity. And you're with other eternities. So you don't notice any distortions, nor do you notice any difference in the way that those frequencies are tuned in to everything. So we're all playing music together, which means all of the harmonics and the speed ratios are like equilibrium states of consciousness that are all tuned in precisely because the math works that precisely. That's the music. Those are real musicians. Excuse me, what I call the original musicians. That's what I call being fully plugged in. Plugged into the first sound field. Experience all the colors, all the color codes. You're off and running. You're like a little kid with a crayon box. I want more crayons. That's the way it was when I was a little kid. Oh, that's not a big box of crayons. I want the big box. More colors, please. More colors. More colors. Because there's so many more variations of what you can do with the colors, right? And so the way this sort of works is that I'll give you an example. I had the Ford Explorer over on the mainland, right? And this thing had a transmission that could go out any time. It was not supposed to last as long as it did, but you get into the difference in time and no time when you're using bubble tech. Bubbles of time, locking things sort of. In other words, if you were to measure, say, I'm driving a Ford Explorer and I realize the transmission's going out. So I stop at a mechanic and I say, okay, drive it right now. How bad is it? It's bad. It's going to go. Do you know exactly how many miles it's going to go? No, I can't say. Okay, but that's a known. That is a known, by the way. In time, duration, or time and motion study, you know because it's in time. Okay, the time delay. How long is it going to take before it finally needs to be? In other words, it's not going to drive any longer. The transmission just went kaput, right? That's a known. So he doesn't know when that's going to happen. Okay, so now we're going to risk. Now we're into the minus/the plus. Now we're back to the polarity game and energy imbalance, right? And so what we have here is I realized that the places that I wanted to go Was it going to last that long? Okay. Well, it would be as if I took it to the mechanic and he realized, okay, you got a transmission that's going out, and you're going to drive all the way down to Southern California from the Redwoods in Northern California, and then you're going to drive all the way up to Oregon through Idaho up into Montana into Canada, and then you're going to go all the way back down to Yellowstone in Montana, and then all the way back down to Los Angeles, and then fly back to the Big Island on that thing. You're nuts. Right? It lasted till Palmdale. Okay, so when I got to Palmdale, there was a guy that came on out, that picked it up with a tow truck, took it to a guy's shop where it's sitting right now. Now, inside that Ford Explorer is a nice green parka, right? Maybe a half a dozen garments of clothes that are that were stuff that I use for the environment, right? For when it's cold out or snow out, right? Versus beach weather. It's got my tools and it had some food there, right? And then I had it set up so I could sleep in that vehicle and then go wherever I needed to go, right? So I'm like a mobile unit, mobile radio set. Okay? And then just my fanny pack, my little fanny pack. You know what a fanny pack is, right? That just keeps a few little things in there that I need. So when that went down, when the transmission finally went down, what I did is I left everything that was in that truck. I only had a backpack. I put a couple things of clothes in there with my fanny pack. Jumped on a bus out of Palmdale, went to LAX, jumped on an airplane, and when I got down here to Hilo, all I had was what I was wearing on me, right? My fanny pack, and that was it. I had no place to go, no place to stay, okay? No vehicle, right? But I know where to go, right? So, that's like, you got a set of instructions, a guidebook on how to live on planet Earth? Yes, I do. What happens is you find out by the more that you keep releasing those things that's been held in memory by the way that we tag, what I call value tagging. What has the greatest value to us? Now, for me, it's always going to be what love is, because love is what heals us when we're needing to be healed. In spirit, the spirit and the energy and the soul is being healed. Pull the fragments in, it's a polarity integrator. Right? Now we remember what love is, from whence it all began. Yeah. Okay, so you don't need much. You don't need matter, per se. I don't need a vehicle to experience that. I don't need a house to experience that. Okay, I don't need a Lamborghini to experience what love is. I don't need any of these things to experience eternal peace through my own heart and soul. And that's what makes it universal. Because that means you're experiencing universal peace in your own mind. So when your consciousness and your energy is in perfect balance because you're experiencing perfect peace, and you're on fire because you are what love is, and you have a creative mind at work, then you realize how that works. And that's an eternal energy creation sphere reality stream that you're running. Right? So you're not held captive by nothing. All you want to do, you want to give away energy. You're not in the business of taking energy and then holding on to it. Right? No, let it all go. So what you find out over time is the more that you are releasing of what's held in memory, the less power that AI war gamer has over your energy, which is our future. When you're in a finite beast technology system, black hole system. It relies on that. See, it relies on folks chasing electrons. Okay? It does. So, in other words, now you know the difference between energy givers and energy takers, and how that works with maintaining the balance, the torque speed differential balance between two magnets on a planet. Right? So when you're in a state of balance and you're in love with creating things, with me, I give it all away, because I'm not wanting to hold what I just created in memory. Right? In other words, using energy and memory to hold it. If you understand how that works. No, let it go. It's gone. See? It simply means that I'm not holding that energy captive. Okay? Because it has energy value, as if I need energy. That's really the point. Okay? Because what ends up happening is when you're holding those things in memory, and then you have repetitive patterns over time of holding those things in memory that are holding you captive to a system that is harvesting your engine, then you're giving consent to live in an energy harvesting system with your consciousness, for which your soul becomes a source of energy from which it's draining. Okay? That's why it's a numbers game. Numbers are energy. And that numbers as energy is defined through a financial system that you're held captive to. Now you're back to the group called Rush. They did a great job of explaining how the money system, all their songs and lyrics were coded. Actually, they all were. The Police, what's that song called Spirit in the Radio, Subdivisions, Pink Floyd. Pink Floyd was in their face for many years, going all the way back to when I remember they first came out in the mid-1960s. Put another brick in the wall, leave our children alone. This is all code talk, of the environment that we're operating in with software. Learning who's who. Remember, run your colors. Ever hear that old saying? Fly your colors. What are your colors? They advertise their colors. Brown and black. Remember? Black Eagle, Black Rock, Black Sun. And then, of course, you have, remember Mussolini? Look at the California Highway Patrol. They wear black boots that go almost, halfway up their calf, most of the way up their leg, right? Khaki pants. Do the pants look familiar at all? Like something you might have seen as the brown shirts in Nazi Germany? Remember the brown shirts and the black shirts? If you want to take your time, go look at what happened, what's called the Night of the Long Knives. The SS Leibstandarte, Hitler's Legion. Right? What happened there in the Night of the Long Knives between the brown shirts and the black shirts? Right? Yeah, the SS Panzers, those folks. How that relates to Mussolini and the Vatican and those folks. Right? Color-coded flags. Right? Fly the mast, the flask, the mast in the ship, the rod, the staff. Right? That's why they call it, hey, that flag is flying at half-mast. What happened? Right? Ask anybody in the United States Marine Corps what it means to fly your colors. Right? You see the uniforms they wear, right? Khaki, right? With the chevrons. Put it together. Okay? It's called reading the terrain. Reading the color-coded, math-coded terrain. And so I do what I always do is do what your heart tells you. Follow your intuition. Follow your heart's intuition. Your soul knows. Your soul knows. Because when you are on fire to learn, your creativity is right. So the idea really is to keep your account balanced. Between what you give, if you will, and then what we acquire, right? Or how we trade. My grandmother could certainly talk to that subject about the Indians who used to trade, what was considered valuable. Hey, I'll trade you 5 gallons of milk because I got a number of goats out here back that I'm feeding and taking care of, right, that are producing really good milk. So I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll trade you 5 quarts of milk or 5 gallons of milk, and what do you got, 4 bales of hemp? That seems like a pretty valuable deal, right? But you can actually measure that across the planetary consciousness terrain between negative and positive ions if they're balanced as a result of that exchange. Because the way the atoms work between the way the ions work in hemp and goat milk. Okay? So somebody's got to manage the account in a planet, right? To keep the poles balanced. Right? Yeah. Have a good day. That's what it means to be anchored to the magnetosphere when you're a oversoul polarity integrator. Hamama. Yeah.